Hi, I'm Swapna Mahapatra. So I grew up in Woodbury, Minnesota, and then I went to school at Penn State University where I studied supply chain and information systems. And then for the past 11 to 12 years, I've actually been doing IT related work. The first 5 years of my professional career, I was doing waterfall related projects, specifically SAP ERP implementations in the order management realm. And then I just kind of decided to switch realms and totally go into consulting, where I got certified as a Scrum Master. And I actually had no idea what I was doing as a Scrum Master. I kind of just got thrown into Gap. But it was probably the best decision I ever made, because Gap has their Scrum process pretty tightly wound. So if I could go anywhere, if anybody could go anywhere to learn Scrum, Gap is definitely the place to go. So then for the past 6 years now, I've been doing Scrum Master work. I've worked in a various amount of industries. I've done retail, grocery, high tech, and then recently I've been in financial, and then shortly I'll be going into manufacturing. So that's kind of a little bit about my background and my professional experience.
Great. Thank you so much, Swapna.
You're welcome.
So how do you define Scrum Master role?
So I would define the Scrum Master role as the facilitator of an Agile development team. So really what the Scrum Master does is they protect the development team from any outside distractions, because you really want your team to be focused in on the work rather than having to deal with any of the other like political nonsense that might be happening behind closed doors. They also do facilitating of a lot of the different ceremonies. So there's a backlog grooming session, a sprint planning meeting, sprint review sessions. There's also a retrospective, and then there are daily stand-ups every day as well.
That's great. And what is the most fun part of your job as a Scrum Master?
So I think the most fun would be just the different types of people you get to communicate with. I definitely think that you have to have a very outgoing personality, be able to communicate with different types of people, because that's really what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, is you're just talking to so many types of people and different people. You're dealing with upper management a lot, you're dealing with a product owner on a daily basis, and then you're also talking with your team too. So I definitely think that's probably the most exciting thing.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And can you tell us about 4 challenges faced by a Scrum Master? Yeah,
sure. So I think one of the biggest challenges is time boxing your different meetings, so specifically your daily stand-up. Your daily stand-up happens every day, and it's supposed to be for 15 minutes. And the challenging aspect of that is that typically your team should be between 5 to 7 developers and individuals, but depending on the company and the maturity of the company when it comes to Agile practices, it could be anywhere from 5 individuals to 20 individuals. So really trying to get each team member speaking time during that time is probably one of the biggest challenges. Also another challenge is that not all of your team is co-located. And when I say co-located, not everybody's sitting in the same area. You could have some people sitting in India, you could have people sitting in Jordan, Canada, San Francisco, New York, just all over the world. So that's another major challenge. And then also another challenge is training the team members that aren't as mature with the Scrum process as well. So you definitely have to take that into account when you're going into a company to become a Scrum Master. Do you have the ability to actually train a more immature team? And then lastly, I think one of my biggest challenges too was the relationship between a Scrum Master and a product owner. Product owners are the ones that basically give you the requirements for any given project, and they want to fulfill every single requirement. So actually trying to be able to compromise and gain their trust when things aren't going the way they want them to is also another big challenge.
Thank you so much, Swapna. And I can totally relate it to the challenges that you mentioned with my role when I worked as a technology consultant. I was like juggling between different teams and different time zones. And yeah, the relationship building again was a very important task. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, collaboration is just a huge part of this role. So if you're the type of person that likes to, kind of be heads down in your role, this is definitely not the role for you.
For sure. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. My next question is, what education background is needed for a Scrum Master position?
So So I personally, like, there's people from all different types of backgrounds that are Scrum Masters. Like I mentioned, for me, I was a supply chain major and I went into IT software development work. What I think that is major in becoming a Scrum Master is to be getting your certification as a Scrum Master, but also like you're willing to learn about the process and how it works, and then kind of being able to understand like the technical aspects of it too. But I don't think you need any formal like college degree to become a Scrum Master.
Mm-hmm. Then what are one or two widely sought certifications which can help to secure Scrum Master position?
Yeah, so the first I would say any Scrum Master should get is their Certified Scrum Master certification. That's just probably the most basic level of it. It's a 2-day course, and then you can get your certification right after that. You do have to take a test, and I believe it's like 25 questions, and you have to pass with like 70%. Another certification I would suggest, just because of the popularity of it right now, is SAFe. So it's Scaled Agile Framework. And I'm not going to say that I'm an expert on it, but I do know that a lot of companies are actually trying to instill the SAFe framework. So that's something else that I would definitely try to pursue as well.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Okay. And what's the career path of an Scrum Master?
So there isn't any formal career path, but I think you can definitely start off first. Like, you get your certification as a Scrum Master, and then you manage one team. And then you can go into managing more harder, complex teams, and maybe multiple teams. Then you could be an Agile coach, then a product owner, and then a manager of like a whole area.
Okay, great. And as you're working as a Scrum Master, what according to you are 3 job search tips for Scrum Master role?
So I think one of the biggest things is having a wide network. And I wouldn't necessarily say you need to have a wide Scrum Master network, but I mean, I would say having a Scrum Master network. So I go on LinkedIn and, I add Scrum Masters all the time, just to be able to talk to them and kind of see what they're doing and if they have any advice on anything that I'm working on. And then I also join like meetup groups, so any IT related meetup groups. And then just ensuring that you keep all of your connections. Like, I think network is a huge, huge thing. And that's really what's helped me in my career so far.
Mm-hmm. And Swapna, as this job market is really tough today, finding a job in Scrum Master position can be troublesome for a few people at times. So what, according to you, are the top 3 skills needed in resume for Scrum Master position so that you can make your resume more noticeable?
So I think for me, what I've done is it's just a way you kind of word things on your resume to show what a Scrum Master, you as a Scrum Master, has accomplished. So definitely make sure that you have any certifications on there that you've accomplished in the Agile related space. I think that's number 1. But also be able to show like how you've collaborated in different organizations and on different projects. And as well as how you can communicate effectively and efficiently, because as I have mentioned before, communication is a huge part of being a Scrum Master.
That's perfect. And from your experience, what are the 5 common interview questions that can be asked in a Scrum Master interview?
Yeah, so I actually wrote these down a little bit so I could actually tell you. So one of the first questions I actually typically get asked is if one of your developers has a blocker that is preventing him or her from working on a user story, how do you ensure that he or she doesn't sit idly? And basically what you want to ensure that during any sprint, your developers have more than one user story that they're working on, so that if they're idle on one, they can continue working on another one. The second question, what is the most important Scrum ceremony within a 2-week sprint in your opinion? That's another question that I get asked very frequently. And to me, it's the sprint review, because that's where you actually get to show off what's been accomplished during a sprint, as well as be able to see how much your team can really handle, so you can kind of estimate what your next sprint should look like. The third question would be, how do you manage your daily stand-ups? And basically you need to ask the questions of what was worked on yesterday, what you're working on today, and then any blockers that, that they would need my help on. Fourth question is, how do you manage a retrospective if not everyone on the team is vocal and feels comfortable speaking in front of others? And the retrospective is really a time when the whole team gets together and talks about what worked, what didn't work, and what we can improve, basically. So there's actually a lot of programs on the internet where you can go through and people can actually type up their responses to these different questions so that they don't have to feel like they have to answer them during the retrospective, and you can kind of just read them off as a Scrum Master. And then the fifth question would be what is the most important job of a Scrum Master? And I think I've mentioned this before, it's really just to protect the development team from any outside distractions.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. So Swapna, there's a lot of confusion between the role of a Scrum Master and a project manager. So how do you differentiate between Scrum Master and a project manager?
Yeah, so a project manager manages the budget, the timeline. They focus on the process and they manage any of the risks, really. The Scrum Master is there to coach and facilitate a team. They monitor the progress of the different sprints. They help the team estimate and increase their velocity. And they really are there to motivate the team. And I kind of like to call a Scrum Master, like they're like your cheerleader, like they're there to like kind of root you on and make sure everything goes well.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And Agile and waterfall methodology, both of these are very important part of any project. So how would you define an Agile methodology as well as a waterfall methodology? So yeah, just a few differences between Agile and waterfall methodologies.
Yes, definitely. And there's a lot of differences, but I'll name a few of them. So Agile, basically it follows an incremental approach. So you have 2-week sprints and you're kind of showing off your work at the end of those 2 weeks. They're more flexible, hence the name Agile. Their test plans are reviewed after each sprint. And then I think one of the main things is that the requirements are expected to change throughout the whole project. So you don't have a set requirements at the beginning. You can kind of go with the flow like throughout the whole project. Waterfall software development process is divided into distinct phases. And the waterfall methodology is actually quite rigid in the way the project is worked. And then it's more ideal for projects which have definite requirements and the change it's not supposed to change at all.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much, Swapna, for all your inputs and the insights. Finally, I have just like one more question.
Sure.
What advice do you have for aspiring Scrum Masters to be successful in their career?
Like I think I mentioned before, definitely keep your network there. Continuously research. I think the one thing that saved me is I'm always online, kind of just looking up what the new trends are and kind of researching anything that I'm working on. Things are changing every day in the IT space, so I think it's really important and integral to continuously be on your A game. So in case someone asks you a question about what's the newest trend, you have kind of an idea of what's going on. But yeah, I think that's basically it. Those are probably the things that I think would help you be successful in any Scrum Master role.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Swapna, for your time and for sharing your knowledge. That was really, really helpful.
You're welcome.
Thanks again. And I'm sorry for the initial technical hiccups.
Oh, I apologize. My internet's been kind of messed up lately, so.
No, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks everyone who has attended on our YouTube live. Thanks again. You have a wonderful day, Swapna.
Yes, you too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.